Hi, my name is Alex Petzold. I am a pharmacology student here at the University of Rhode Island.
Hi, my name is Hannah Eisa. I'm a psychology student here at the University of Rhode Island as well.
Today, we're going to be talking about mindset, suicidality, and SSRIs and the link between all of them. Our research question for this podcast is: can mindset be incorporated in treatment plans as a supplement to antidepressants to combat the side effects of suicidality?
It's important to note that our study is a correlation study. We are just looking at the links between these three factors. It is not a study in search for a causation.
Now, to answer this question, we gathered information on the current hypotheses regarding why suicidality increases when taking SSRIs and the existing applications of mindset across multiple fields. Now, while this study on mindset is broad and the theories and techniques discussed in this podcast can be beneficial to most, the target audience is individuals between the ages of 18 and 24 who take SSRI antidepressants and have increased suicidality rates as a result.
Now, I know a lot of the terms that we've been using can seem a bit complicated, and we will be clarifying what each one means later on. But a good example to start off with that really does show the interplay between psychology and medicine is the placebo effect. So, a quick review on that. The placebo effect is defined by Better Health as a treatment that appears real but is designed to have no therapeutic benefit. So, like a sugar pill or a fake injection or even a fake surgery. So, the placebo effect is triggered by the person's belief in the benefits of the treatment and their expectations of feeling better. Later, we'll also be talking about the power of suggestion, and that is when you are under the impression that something will work that is a factor in whether it will work or not. Now, the goal of placebo medication is to further our understanding of the effects and benefits of the actual medicine. But you can also look at a placebo effect from a psychology standpoint and ask the question, okay, if this medication has actually no benefit, why is it still working? A doctor who did set out to find the answer to this question was Dr. Benedetti. His study, he got a group of people that underwent thoracic surgery. He gave half of them a morphine injection administered by a doctor, so it's called an open injection, and then the other half had the same amount of morphine at the same times, but through a hidden injection, so it was just through their IV, so they weren't aware that they were being administered morphine. And that group reported little to no improvement in their pain levels.
So, throughout the course of this podcast, we're going to be using a lot of different terms that may not be known to everyone. So, it's important that we go over what these terms mean. So, one of the first terms that we're going to be using is SSRI, and that is a class of antidepressants known as a selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor. And that is correlated with increased suicidality in individuals between the ages of 18 and 24, which is our target audience that we're going to be looking at, and suicidality, which is suicidal thoughts, behaviors, or attempts.
Now, mindset, while it is a broad term and a lot of people have their own definition for it, and none of them are necessarily wrong, but the one that we will be focusing on today is the definition proposed by Dr. Alia Crum, who her whole research and her whole career is focused on the study of mindset. And she defines it as a mental frame or lens that selectively organizes and encodes information on which we build our expectations. Now, it's really important to focus on this one because the organization and encoding information will be a big part of our research and where we're focusing on how it can decrease suicidality. Also, you'll be hearing us say maladaptive mindset, and that is beliefs that are false and rationally unsupported.
Now, for this portion of the podcast, we'll be discussing pertinent background information on suicidality in SSRIs and mindset separately. Now, suicidality as a result of taking SSRI antidepressants has been a concern in the medical field since February 2004. The Food and Drug Administration conducted a combined analysis placebo-controlled study that showed double the rate of suicidality in those taking SSRIs compared to those taking the placebo. Research has also proven that SSRIs are ineffective in children and increase suicidality rates.
For the background on mindset, we're going to be talking about the applications of mindset in different domains that have already been studied and established. So the first one, we're going to be talking about the application of mindset and intelligence, which was done by Dr. Dweck. and she was looking at how, if the way that the individual views intelligence, a fixed trait or a malleable trait, how that affects their results. So it was found that individuals who viewed intelligence to be a malleable trait to have improvement in their learning abilities and their motivation. The same was not true for individuals who viewed intelligence as a fixed trait. And the reason that they didn't report a decrease in their motivation levels or learning is because when you already have a maladaptive mindset, that is sort of your baseline. So anything that you have a maladaptive mindset on, whenever you approach that certain thing, whether that's about intelligence or the other domains that we'll be discussing, you won't report a decrease in your levels and in your results.
Now, mindset has also been shown to play a role in food consumption, and the study that we're about to talk about was done by Dr. Alia Crum. When subjects of the study were told that a milkshake was high in calories, their ghrelin levels, which is also known as the hunger hormone, decreased significantly compared to when subjects were told that the same milkshake was low in calories.
Now, this is also another example of the power of suggestion that we discussed before with the placebo effect. When the subjects of this study thought that they were having a milkshake that was high in calories, they were expecting to feel full. So that is a reason for why their ghrelin levels decreased. They were less hungry. Whereas when we view something as, okay, this is going to be light or low in calories, or it's like the healthy option, then we won't report that decrease in the ghrelin levels and will continue to be hungry. It's just about the power of suggestion. It was suggested to them that they would feel full, or it was suggested to them that they wouldn't.
Now, during this section of the podcast, we're going to be talking about how we made the connections between the different studies that we've talked about thus far. While it's still unclear how SSRIs increase suicidality, researchers have many different theories, the most common of which is that side effects of antidepressants, such as agitation and impulsivity, can increase in the early stages of treatment and lead to suicidality. From this theory, we can extract a link between SSRI side effects and suicidality. A link between expectation and outcome is also present, as evidenced by the placebo effect.
So we propose that a correlation may exist between mindset and the adverse side effects of SSRIs that lead to suicidality. In other words, mindset and suicidality aren't directly correlated. We have the adverse side effects that acts as the bridge between mindset and suicidality. So if we can fix the adverse side effects through mindset, then as a result, suicidality will decrease, hypothetically. Specifically, what we keep saying mindset, but our mindset about what are we trying to change? We're trying to change the mindset regarding one's diagnosis and medication. Given that humans can't retain the information of every detail they observe, our approach to change in mindset will include training the mind to pay attention to specific details that can influence a change in maladaptive mindset. Like we had said before in the very definition of mindset, and I had noted that it's really important to focus on the observed information part. That is what we're trying to change. We're trying to train the brain to pick up on specific details and ignore other details in order to change maladaptive mindset.
Now, I think during this time of the podcast, it's a really important time to talk about personal experiences. With SSRIs and their side effects, they're not going to be the same for everyone, especially when it comes to mindset, as we've been talking about. I've been on SSRI antidepressants for around 8 months now, and when I started out with the antidepressants, I had a good mindset about it. I wanted to be on the SSRIs because of how I was feeling. And so when I started out, I was thinking these medications are going to be helpful to me, despite the physical side effects that they do present. Throughout this podcast, we've been talking a lot about mental side effects, but it's also really important to talk about physical side effects that happen with SSRIs.
Yes.
Some very common ones are GI side effects and sexual side effects. When I started out on my SSRIs, I experienced both of those, but I, through my mindset, said these are only going to be mostly temporary, and I'm going to feel better mentally, which was a really big drive for me. And so with that, I was able to push away how those side effects were making me feel and kind of maintain a positive mindset about it.
For me, I also did experience a lot of the psychological and physical side effects of antidepressants. The one that is coming into my mind the most right now is acne. I had so much acne after I started my medication. But my mindset of my diagnosis was that I did not want it at all. And I also did not want my medication. I didn't want to be on it. I kind of just agreed because my therapist heavily suggested it. Which it is, I'm glad I'm bringing this up because it's also important to note that roughly half of the population of people that are on antidepressants, especially multiple antidepressants, haven't seen their medical team, whether that's their therapist or their psychiatrist, in the past year. And I was very shocked to learn that, but then reflecting on my own experience, that is very true because my doctor almost viewed the medication to be like taking over his job. Like he just needed to give me that medication, then he was all set. So yeah, I really didn't have a good mindset of it, and so I viewed my side effects as kind of like taking like 3 steps back after taking a step forward with it. And yeah, I took it a couple years ago, and now I'm off of it because I didn't have a good mindset about it whatsoever.
It's very important to note that not every antidepressant, whether it be an SSRI or some other form of antidepressant, will work for everyone.
Yeah.
As we're discussing, Hannah is off of them and did not have a good experience with them. I am still currently on them and am feeling much better than I was.
Yeah. There's no right or wrong path you can take with figuring out what's the best treatment plan for you.
Right.
We're not trying to say stop taking your antidepressants, use these strategies. It's more so you can use these strategies as a supplement, especially since mindset is something that you can implement by yourself, given that we know a lot of people aren't actually going to see their therapists. Okay, in the next section of our podcast, we're going to talk about specific strategies that you can use to change your mindset regarding your diagnosis and medication. I know when we were talking about our personal experience, we were using terms like positive mindset and negative mindset. Those are very broad, so now we're looking at more specific strategies. The first one is rumination versus deliberating. So, what do those mean? Rumination involves repetitive and excessive thinking about an event that has already occurred. So, like brooding and intrusive thoughts. Deliberating, on the other hand, is a voluntary reflection on an event with adequate consideration and to search for meaning. The goals of those two things are very different, and another big factor that makes them different is that rumination isn't something that you can really control. Like we said, it's like intrusive thoughts and a lot of repetitive thinking, whereas deliberating, you are able to voluntarily choose to reflect on the situation and search for meaning. So when you're thinking about a specific event during which symptoms of the SSRI that you're taking, like agitation or disinhibition, are present and caused you discomfort, we propose that you use deliberating to reflect on that event. Moving forward and not dwelling on the past is an ideal solution in some ways, but is highly unrealistic. So instead of attempting to change a really big habit right now, we suggest altering how you reflect to avoid causing more harm or stress is the better option. And we believe that this can be done through deliberation. I don't know about you guys, but when somebody gives me a solution, it almost adds more pressure that, okay, now I need to use this. And when it's a very big solution, like, oh, just like stop thinking about it. Right. That's really hard. And like being told to do that, now you feel the pressure to do it, and it can actually increase your agitation, and that's what we're trying to avoid. So throughout these strategies, generally, you will notice, but I do really want to clarify that these are all very important smaller steps. You're going to be thinking and reflecting on your situation anyway and on the events, so we want it to be in a good way. So how you can do this is when you're reflecting, allow yourself a set amount of time to do so. For example, you can set a timer, or you can reflect while you're waiting for your meal to finish cooking in like the microwave. You set it for 3 minutes. You got those 3 minutes to reflect on whatever situation that caused you discomfort, and then you move on to the next thing. It's also really good to have something to look forward to after that set timer is done. That's why we use the example of like food. Now, while reflecting on the symptoms that caused you any discomfort in that situation, search for external factors that could have contributed to making that event more stressful. By doing that, you will likely realize that the outcomes are not entirely blamed on you. So I know a lot of people will reflect on like how they were speaking to other people or in social situations, and then they'll be like, why did I say that? Why did I do that? Or like they feel like the other person reacted in a negative way. Well, when you reflect and you can like kind of talk out loud about this, you'll realize that it's not the way that you spoke all the time, or the fact that like maybe your agitated symptoms showed up. It could be the setting of like the whole social setting. That other person could also have been dealing with their own thing and been uncomfortable. You'll start to pick up on those things. Being graceful with yourself during your reflection does not include false positivity. It's okay and encouraged to recognize the harm that the SSRI symptoms can potentially cause you. Knowing the extent and the details, however, that will help you because it's just more information about yourself that helps you understand your top priority better, which is you and your health. And that is not a selfish thing to do. It is not wrong or blame, or you're not shifting blame when you're reflecting and realizing like, oh, the social setting could have been off, the other person could have been going through something. You're just being honest.
Now, having said that, this leads us into our second strategy, which is selective abstraction. This entails focusing on specific details, typically unfavorable details, and using them as a guide to conceptualizing the entire experience, ignoring other pertinent information. Now, it's important to say that this way of viewing perceived reality is irrational. If you can recall the definition of mindset, it is a lens that selectively organizes and encodes information. Now, if we only focus on the irrational negative aspects of each scenario, we are only fueling our mindset with that negative and irrational information to manage and build our views on and experiences on. Now, when it comes to mindset on one's medication, we think focusing on the amplitude of benefits it provides can aid in training the brain to focus on said benefits. Now, this allows the mindset to organize rational and positive information on which to build expectations.
Yeah, and it's important to note, like we had said, it's training the brain to focus on different details. This will only come with practice. It may feel insignificant at the beginning to kind of just like sit down and say out loud like, the after beginning my SSRI medication, I've become less A, B, C, and D, like, or I've have increased motivation. Like, really just say the benefits that you're getting out loud, so that way your brain can actually focus on them. And yeah, it really just comes with practice. And you can do this laying down before you go to bed. It's like out loud, say it to yourself. Yeah, or at any time, you really can.
Now, this is a perfect segue into our last and final strategy, which is the growth mindset theory. Now, this theory was proposed by psychologist Carol Dweck. Growth mindset theory posits our beliefs and about intelligence and the ability to change mindsets can have impacts on how we approach challenges, respond to criticism, challenges, and orient our goals. Now, we think this theory's basis can be applied to mindset regarding one's diagnosis. If an illness and its accompanying symptoms are viewed as fixed traits, that may contribute to their intensity or frequency as opposed to viewing them as malleable, which Hannah had stated previously. With a mindset that centers around symptoms being traits that ebb and flow, control becomes possible, and with that comes management.
My sister said this best. She also is on SSRIs, loves it, right? I asked her, I was like, how do you feel about your diagnosis and about your medication? She said, the more information I can learn about myself, the better. And when she said that, I thought that really reminded me of the growth mindset theory, because she was like, all right, I have my symptoms, but I don't have them every day. I have I have the benefits, but those also don't happen every day. So it's really important to view this as something that can change and that is malleable. Like, every day won't be the exact same, because with that comes hope, which is a very big thing that plays into decreasing suicidality, which would be a whole other research thing. But it is important to note that, because if you're viewing this as something that's fixed, that will never ever change, then what's the point? That, and you can't answer that question with that mindset. So you really do have to view it as something that does ebb and flow, because that is the rational thing and that is the truth. The ultimate goal for any individual living with a mental illness is to reach emotional equilibrium, which is a state of adequate emotional control over oneself. That's what all of us really want. Implementing strategies to change your mindset to accommodate the changes caused by SSRI antidepressants doesn't have to be a time consuming or complicated thing. Like we had said, a lot of these strategies you can implement laying down in bed, warming something up in the microwave. The applications of the practices and theories discussed today can be incorporated in your daily life as part of your treatment plan at no cost and with little risk compared to alternative options such as adding medication or altering doses.
Now, while these strategies can be used at any stage in treatment, it is definitely crucial during the first few months of taking SSRIs, as the risk of suicidality is at its highest during these times. If a diagnosis or medication is viewed with a maladaptive mindset and suicidality is present due to SSRIs, shifting mindset regarding one's diagnosis and medication can potentially decrease the risk of suicidality and improve the quality of life with a mental illness. Now, with everything we've talked about, it's a very heavy subject, so it's important to state that if you need any additional help managing your mental health or implementing strategies to shift your mindset, a therapist or licensed professional can help. Now, we do not claim to be experts on this topic, so giving resources and having people look up places around them to help them manage their mental health and or mental illnesses is very important. Now, a list of therapies relating to mindset would be something such as cognitive restructuring or mindfulness-based intervention.
You could discuss this with your therapist or do some more research on it and find out what works for you.
Now, with everything we've talked about, we do want to say thank you for listening, and we hope that this information has been helpful and given you a strategy either to go talk to someone or continue your therapy and talk with your therapist about different ways to help manage your mental illness.
We'll include our contact information in the description, and thanks for watching.